Hey everyone, and welcome back to the Watchlist Podcast. It's been a long time since I've recorded one of these, but it's good to be back. I have with me Jake Domanski and Connor Tyler. I'm sorry, I forget your last name.
No, that is spot on.
That's spot on. Okay, sweet. Yeah, Jake is a returning guest on this podcast. He was on actually the last episode that I recorded back in October with the Buttery Mails podcast that he and I co-host together with some other really funny people. And so that leads us to the movie recommendation part of the show. For anyone unfamiliar, how this works is that I recommend the guests a movie, the guests recommend me a movie, and then we discuss. So the three movies, I usually say directors' names, but I'm not going to bother because I'm going to butcher all of them probably. We're going to be talking about Interstella 5555, The Story of the Secret Star System, Akira, and Your Name. So I guess let's start with Akira, because that, from going into it, I was going in with the understanding that that's one of the most famous anime movies of all time, and I gotta say it really lives up to its to that description. So Jake, that was the one that you recommended. So tell us a little bit about Akira.
Yeah, so you want me to give a synopsis or
yeah, we
or
can
just
talk like general stuff at first, and then we'll get into spoilers in a little bit if anyone still hasn't seen it yet. Which, if you're one of those people who hasn't watched the movie yet, shame on you for getting yourself spoiled. But we can't control what you do.
Akira to me was one of these movies I saw. Yeah, I mean, maybe one day. No, I don't know what I'm talking about. And so Akira was one of these movies I saw a little bit of when I was younger, and I didn't see it from start to finish. I just saw a part of it, and it really scared the shit out of me. And it's actually the part where you could say the main character, one of the main characters, his name is Tetsuo. He's hallucinating, but kind of not. Someone's playing tricks in his mind, and it's the whole teddy bear toy scene.
Yeah.
And it scared the hell out of me. I didn't know what was going on. So I saw it when I was 10, and I was okay, screw that, I'm not watching that. And then years later, as you get older, and I'm still into anime and stuff like that, everyone I knew was oh, have you seen Akira? It's really awesome. And it's the thing you were saying, Jacob. It's one of the more famous anime films out there. It does originate from a manga as well, but yeah, it's basically it's about Neo Japan in the future, even though presently we're past that date of 2019.
Technically, Akira already happened.
Yeah, technically Akira already happened, aka COVID-19.
Yeah, I was gonna say the singularity is just COVID-19. It's a much slower destruction.
Real quick, the director's name, it's Katsuhiro Otomo.
Okay.
See, and this is why we have Connor, because he knows how to nail these names.
Practicing Japanese. It might not be right. I'm sorry if it's not. I tried.
Well, it sounded right to me as far as I know, but who knows? I don't know shit. But yeah, it's in Neo Japan. Apparently after World War III, and the beginning scene is a massive, what looks like a nuke blowing up on Japan, and now it's Neo Japan, and it's the future is kind of similar to. It did remind me of Blade Runner, if you've seen that, a little bit, with this tight, compact city that's full of trash, and there's so much hedonism everywhere. You have biker gangs. The main characters' names are Kaneda and Tetsuo, and they're part of a biker gang, and they're doing what biker gangs do. They get into gang fights with other biker gangs, and while Tetsuo is pursuing one, he gets distracted, and in front of him is some weird looking child basically stops him and blows up his bike. He has some weird interaction with them, and that's where the roller coaster kind of begins. It goes into I guess ESP users, and it's such a wild film. Like I don't know. Do you want? Yeah, I feel like we can work work this out.
Yeah, I thought it was going to be more of like you said, the whole Blade Runner aesthetic, where it's like about like the resistance aspect that they talk about a little bit in the beginning. I didn't realize it was going to get into all like the intense like dimensional science stuff that it does. I thought it was going to be strictly like we have to lead this rebellion against the government and reclaim our city and whatnot. But it got so crazy, like pretty much right from the point where that you just said. Like up until then, I was still fully expecting just like, okay, this is an animated Blade Runner, but then it's fucking wild. Like
it truly goes bonkers. It does have to do like with what you said, like singularity. So like, what would be like powers so great that like a new universe is started and shit like that. But it all like kind of like it snowballs into that from an accident with like an ESP user that leads to Tetsuo getting ESP powers, and there's like whispers and kind of talk like of lacking context of this person Akira, that it's hinted may or may not have been the catalyst that started World War III. So it's hard to say what Akira is really. You have people in the city who are praising this figure Akira like a god, and you still like don't really know what Akira is for a while when you watch it.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, Tetsuo, he after this accident, crashing into this ESP user, he's taken with the ESP user back to this government facility where they heal him, but while they're like healing him, like having him recover from his injuries, they realize he has potential like Akira, kind of is what they're saying. They're like he has ESP abilities, and so he manages to escape. He goes back to his biker friends, where he then starts having crazy hallucinations. I think the first one is when he decides to run away from the government with his, I guess, girlfriend at the time, and they get stopped by a biker gang, and eventually they get saved by their friend Canada, and he just has these like crazy migraines. And yeah, the first hallucinations I think you see him have is the ground crumbling beneath him, and then all of his organs spilling out of his stomach, and he looks like a nut.
Visuals, like
even
at that.
This movie was a lot more intense than I remembered. That was something, because I saw it when I was super young too, and rewatching it, I was just like, everything was so, I guess, visceral, where it's like every single time someone got hurt or injured or even like killed, it was like, holy.
Yeah, just like from something as simple as like the glass shattering, and then he steps on it. Like even that is like just so visceral and like I don't. It just it makes you cringe, but in the best possible way is how I would describe it.
Yeah, it's I didn't remember this movie, like I said, just being as violent as it was. I remembered it in such a, I don't know, rose-colored glasses kind of way, I guess, where just everything seemed to shock me a lot more, especially the whole when Tetsuo escaped with Kaori, I think is her name, the girlfriend. When they get attacked by the other biker gang, I was like, wow, this is hard to watch.
Truly, yeah.
I just don't remember. I don't know. Maybe my brain pushed it out. Maybe I just didn't think about it. But yeah, it was like, it's just a very visceral movie. I was like, whoa.
That was one of those scenes where I was like, oh, thank God Canada showed up, because like it was really going very bad.
Yeah.
Same. Yeah. Now, they like punched the girl in the face, and they were about to have their way with her until his buddy came in and stopped it. So thank God.
Exactly. Yeah. Now, one thing I want to ask you guys, because I wish I could have gotten a second viewing in, because I talked to a couple other people I know who really like this movie, and they said that you learn to appreciate it on a whole other level the more you the more repeated viewings you have. So I guess from your perspective of like not having seen it for a long time and then rewatching it, did you get more out of it, like in terms of like understanding the plot more, or like I don't know, just any other?
Oh, 100%. Yeah, I was really like tied into the political aspect this time around. Like I've seen it a few times, and I was just more or less like with involving the terrorist groups that I think the girl that Canada kind of falls for named Kay. Yeah, like the whole terrorist group that is actually working for a guy who is like a part of like the council of what would be, I guess,
like the Supreme City Council leaders, or something like that.
It's like, yeah, the government, like, yeah, there's like a mole in the government, like, ring of leaders there. And he's in charge of the terrorist group that, like, is responsible for the beginning. Like, the reason Tetsuo crashes into that Esper kid is because this mole in the government, like, actually managed to use his terrorist group to break that kid out. And I'm not sure what they were going to do with that kid, but yeah, there's like a mole in the system, and like it's interesting watching this like mole character kind of work to kind of boot out the who would be the military like general guy who understands. It seems like he understands the threat of these espers and what Akira is on a whole other level compared to the rest of the council guys. Like he's worried, and he knows kind of the truth about what's happening, but this mole has kind of like slipped it to the other councilmen that, hey, we should worry about, financial stuff more. Hey, we should worry about this other shit. He was wrong here. He was abusing his power. Let's not listen to him, but he's basically trying to be like, listen, like, there's this kid Tetsuo, and we think like he's going to do what Akira did again, and they're not interested,
right?
Because it has to, everyone's like the Neo Japan is a wreck, by the way. So like they're more interested in fixing the infrastructure of Neo Japan than this looming threat that this military officer keeps reminding them about on the daily and keeps asking for more money, saying like these Esper kids are kind of like the thing we need to concentrate on, because if we don't, everything you're worried about is going to go out the window, because this whole Akira event is going to happen again. Yeah. So that's the other thing also, that Akira is like the nuke you see in the beginning going off that starts World War III, but no one really knows that actually. Like the rest of the world, I guess, thinks that
it's a nuke.
Yeah, they thought like a nuke went off when it was actually this Esper like going fucking bonkers, basically. So
that's actually one thing that I'm glad you clarified there, is because that kind of makes me look at the general character in a whole new light. Because I kind of like when I was watching it, I kind of took him as just okay, he's a generic like person who exists to kind of slow down the protagonist and what he's trying to do, and he's like the villain, the stereotypical villain. But he like just in the way you describe him there, like all of his motivations make sense, and he becomes less of a villain and more of like just kind of maybe not even misguided, but like he's just like so clouded by we can't let this happen again that he's willing to do bad things to keep everyone else safe. It's
exactly
very, very
my first viewing. Yeah, my first viewing, I thought he was a bad guy, and then, like, the more I watched it, like, this time really nailed it in that he is actually a good guy. He's just, like the human in all of us, he's just scared of this, like, this crazy power that they mentioned. This is the power of a god. Like, these are things we do not understand. And I think he even says, and I'm paraphrasing, he's like, this is, like, here, and we, like I think a scientist is telling him like this might be like the next evolution of man or whatever, and he's kind of like, yeah, but like basically until then it's here, and we have to like do something now to control this before that shit happens again. And that's all a paraphrase, but yeah, it's just wild stuff.
That was the only difference I had on a second viewing. Was I saw Tetsuo as the bad guy almost immediately, and I saw the general as a good guy. I was like, oh, he seems like he
Definitely.
knows what he's doing, and he seems like he's
So
maybe a little misguided, maybe, but he
Yeah.
seems like he's got everyone's best interest at heart. And yeah, I definitely think Tetsuo was the bad guy on a second viewing. I was like, wow, he doesn't seem
Oh,
like
yeah.
but
a
on
great
first
person at
viewing,
all.
you saw him as more of a good guy.
I don't know. I saw him as a protagonist. I definitely did. And
That's
this time I
interesting.
think, yeah,
It can be like easily seen that way because you have like these figures in the government who are so corrupt. You're kind of like get this nihilistic viewpoint where you're like, yeah, like fuck them all. Like they fucked with Tetsuo. Like he's giving them hell now. But yeah, it is one of those things. Like this time around, it's like Tetsuo is a bad guy. There's no doubt about it because he like he's killing. At first, you kind of feel bad for him because he's like. You're like, oh, they're experimenting on him. Like he's having these crazy headaches. He can't even control what he's doing. But then he kind of does get a control over like his powers, and he immediately starts like just
Abusing
doing
them.
evil.
Dude,
yeah,
that scene in the hallway when those like people come and approach him and he just like lifts his arm up. It's like three people just like smears on the roof and the
that
lights.
scene gets
and,
me every time.
Yeah,
like, that's a
it's like
gross
switch in the
power
movie. It's like whoa.
scene that scares me. Like when I
Yeah.
see it, it's like
It just
I get the
feels
same
real.
feeling like when I've watched The Boys and like there's like a scene where Homelander like has a daydream where he lasers everyone into like in half or whatever.
Scary.
That's like that same scary strong power that like I don't like seeing because it's just so gross. It's just so it like the word you used earlier, visceral. It's like the most visceral scene in that movie for me is when those guys are like, get back to your room, and he's like, he has like a headache, and they just like
Explode.
they all get pushed into the ceiling and the walls like it's nothing. It's crazy. Yeah.
So I guess that's our cue to get into spoilers. So if anyone who hasn't seen
Yeah.
Akira yet, you should definitely watch it. And again, if you're listening to this and you haven't seen it yet, why would you do that to yourself? It's a good movie. So definitely go check that out. We're going to be talking spoilers on the movie from here on out. So pause and go watch it and then come back. So I could not make heads and tails of the ending. Like when I watched it, I had to read about it later to like kind of get what happened.
Okay.
And
yeah.
my mind was kind of blown when I like went on the wiki and read like the whole like he like Tetsuo becomes basically the god of whatever the next dimension is and starts a whole new universe. Like that's did you guys get any of that on your first viewing at all? Or?
Weirdly enough, my first viewing, I was like such like a, I don't know, like a hippie, like stoner guy that when that happened, I like thought that that's what happened. And I did the same thing. I wikied it and I was like, holy shit, like I got that right for once. I got something right. Yeah. He like becomes an entire universe. That's what Akira at the end, like weirdly enough, that nuke explosion is like, I guess him like taking everything away, like to another universe or something like that.
To like start
And
over
that's
or whatever.
Yeah, exactly. Like that's the whole singularity thing. Like, yeah, he becomes a universe. He becomes like, a god. He says, "My name is Tetsuo" at the end, and like inside of his weird god eye is like the beginning of like that whole universe and
It's like
dimension.
another Big Bang, basically.
Exactly.
It's like,
yeah.
whoa. I got everything except for the whole K psychic powers thing. Apparently,
That blew my mind actually this time around. I
did
didn't
not
realize that was
get
ever
that
happening
at all. But it does make sense when you go back and they do say it's already happening. It's already begun. I think like multiple times.
Yeah.
The children or the numbers is what they're called. I think in movie. The weird grandpa kids. That's what I call them.
The grandpa kids.
They're kids that look like grandpas or grandma. Technically, there's one girl. They're kids that look like old people. Yeah, it's so weird.
It's
It
like
is
grotesque
so
in
weird.
and of itself too, because like imagine like being that little and now you have these like cosmic powers that you don't even fully understand, and it's taking such a toll on your body. Like, there's so much shit in this movie that's like so like I feel like a broken record for saying it again, but so visceral and grotesque that like even just something like that's kind of sort of implied, just like by the fact that they look old. Like imagine all the shit that's happened to them to make them look like that, like all of the like experiments and the testing that's been done, and like how messed up their psyche is, and like how they've been forced to adapt. It's like it's crazy.
Yeah, I totally agree, and with the whole K thing, so like, she turns out to also have ESP powers, like at the end or something. That's how she reaches to Canada, like, and gets him out of that singularity thing or whatever I guess is going on there. But it does make me like it's the help of the kids, but it's also her like calling to him so he can like find his way out.
Dude, he literally says it. God, I'm an idiot.
Yeah,
but
the thing is, it makes me think, because like you said, when those kids are saying it's already begun, it's like, is Kei like the next like Tetsuo or Akira in a way? But the other thing is, those ESP kids, they say everyone is born with the ability of Akira. Like, they can do this just like Akira, but you choose the path, and Tetsuo chose his path. So I think Kei like is like, I don't think we have to worry about that. I think she's like, she can use these powers, but she's not gonna end up like that. So
didn't the kids also say that like they would also one day be able to? They keep cutting off. It says,
yeah, that's trippy dialogue
too. And I think isn't that them also just suggesting that one day we'll be strong enough to control powers in which we can be gods of our own universe? Is that what they're suggesting?
I guess. I think it goes back to that like that whole like, this is the next evolution in humanity thing. Is like, we all become singularities, we all become gods, we all become universes. So crazy. Like, the concept of this is so crazy.
It's so abstract for a movie that came out in what? It's like 1988.
89.
Yeah, 1988. Like, it's such an abstract kind of concept to it's also so iconic, I think. There's so many scenes that I saw in this movie that I was like, whoa, I remember this so clearly, because I've either seen it so much or seen it replicated in other popular media so much. When Kaneda like takes his red bike, slides it to stop, I was like, wow, I've seen that so much. I've seen that so much. I mean, I hate to admit it, but in the stadium when like Tetsuo loses control and starts to become this like formed like baby blob, I just immediately thought of South Park and the Trapper Keeper episode, and I was like, damn it, man. Like,
have you seen this episode of South Park, Jacob?
What is it again?
It's a Trapper Keeper. It's Cartman gets this Trapper Keeper that's like so advanced. It like is, so basically the South Park episode is a mashup of Terminator and Akira. It's like, you have this person who comes from the future trying to stop Eric's Trapper Keeper, who would be like the guy from the first Terminator coming back to warn Sarah Connor, like,
right,
the Terminator, like, the technology is going to destroy us all. But it's Eric's Trapper Keeper. But then, like, the Trapper Keeper kind of becomes, like, sentient and starts having its own, like, technological singularity that it makes Eric, like, it forms with Eric, and Eric becomes the Akira baby blob, like, at the end.
No,
and,
I haven't
it's also
that.
A tie-in with 2001 Space Odyssey as well. Yeah, it's an older South Park episode, but I saw that way before I ever saw Akira. So when I saw Akira and I saw this, like, this amorphous baby blob, like, I was like, oh shit, South Park. Oh, Akira's referencing South Park. That's
yeah.
That's so cool of them to like borrow from American TV like that. Wow.
Dang. Yeah, they invented a time machine, went into the future, watched the episode, came back, made the movie. Boom. Done deal. Did it.
Mind blown.
That baby blob like scene, like, before it even gets there, like when Tetsuo like fuses metals to his arm, and then you start seeing like wires pulsing out of him, and the wires start becoming like somewhat organic and shit like that. Like, that is such a creepy
Yeah.
concept to me. The whole cybernetic organism thing, where it's like these are wires, but they're pulsing fluids and shit. Like, it's so, that always freaked me out. Even this time around, I was like, ugh, that is just gross. And once again, visceral. I'll say it again. Hashtag visceral.
Hashtag Akira. Hashtag visceral.
Yeah, I hated that scene when he sits down on the really nice like throne.
It's like forming to the chair, like as he grips it, like
Yeah, it's just like, well, it's weird too because like he doesn't notice at first. He keeps talking like nothing is wrong, and it just like digs into the chair and the ground around him. It's just so.
Doesn't he like start to get up and his arm is still stuck to the chair?
Ugh.
Oh shit.
It's I think he also like breaks it and like throws some stones at the general too.
Yeah.
He's a mess, man. Tetsuo is insane. Just a mess.
At the end,
bro.
he's a gross mess. There's no
He
doubt.
is.
Yeah.
I feel bad for Kaori, his girlfriend. She did literally nothing wrong, and she just
fucking
I hate to
crushed
say
to
it.
death,
Yeah,
Yeah,
she
that was
takes
bad.
L's left and right for just trying to be a good person.
The
and it's
entire
just
movie,
like,
not even just in that ending.
exactly.
Yeah.
Like that's the worst part. She never does anything wrong to anybody. Just tries to be a good girlfriend and ultimately friend to Tetsuo, and instead she gets like beaten and almost worse by a biker gang, and then just crushed to death by some like
baby
disgusting
monster.
singularity.
Oh,
yeah, it's just so
that scene,
gross. It's
like
so
this time around really fucked me
Yeah.
up actually because he's
dude.
like screaming for help and he's like, Canada, please, like she's gonna die. I can't control my body, and then you see her get squished and he's like, I can feel her pain, like she's like in me.
It
It was
I don't like this. Yeah.
ugh.
I had to take a breather after I saw that. I was like, okay, I need to
Tough
see
one.
something cute
Tough
and
dude.
silly to de-stress after that. I needed to go watch some like cat videos on YouTube to like, take my mind off of the horror of Kaori dying.
You had to pour up a drink. And just be like,
See, I'm getting, there's a reason why I took a 6-month break from this show.
We go right back to some dramatic shit.
And Jake's the one who did it again. No, first Dagon,
God
now
damn
this.
it.
Yeah.
I'm starting to pick up a pattern. I'm just a sick fuck, basically.
But it was a really good movie. I liked it a lot. Does either of you have any final thoughts you want to say about Akira?
Yeah, real quick. The whole movie is hand drawn. It's all hand drawn stuff. So that's a whole nother layer. You can appreciate that type of, like Connor, you said the style is like washed, like that old anime washed. This is like, the whole aesthetic of like Japan nightlife anime that's older is some shit that just hits me so hard. I love it so much. So when I watch this movie, I'm just gushing because I'm like, oh my gosh, look at these skyscrapers, all these neon lights. The city is thriving. It's alive. It's a total concrete jungle, and look at the way that they've drawn this. It's one of these like movies that I watch in the dark because I like the aesthetic so much. I want to feel like I'm like in the city, in this reality, even though it's a hell reality. This like hand drawn aesthetic of Japanese nightlife or whatever hits me so hard,
The
and
neon
I really
and like
appreciate
the rain and all that.
Exactly, yeah. So I really love that. That's and my final thoughts. Yeah, watch this freaking movie. It's like it's such a trip. You will be, and actually this time around I was like, this is pretty fast paced. How this like picks off, like how this kicks off. I mean, so it's gonna keep you interested for sure. That's pretty much all I have to say.
Connor, how about you?
I really liked watching this movie again. It was I think the first anime movie I can remember watching as a child very lightly. Like I remember specifically the bike thing. I remember watching this. I was like, I know that. I remember that. And then the stadium scene too. I was like, I remember bits and pieces of Kaneda and Tetsuo's duel. So rewatching it was like a treat to just be like, oh, I do not remember how insane this movie was. It's just it. If you want to watch like an old school anime movie, watch Akira. Just do yourself a favor, watch Akira. Story is like, it's really interesting. It has like a cyberpunk, like Jake said, a nightlife aesthetic to it that is really cool. It just oozes cool throughout the entire time. It's also, we keep using the word, but it is like visceral and like grounded in a super weird way. Again, like it's grounded to the universe where it's like, yeah, they've established that like ESP and psychic powers exist, so it's not as bizarre that some guy can wave his arm and 3 people get like squished to the ceiling, but those were 3 regular people, and that's what would happen if 3 regular people get squished to the ceiling. So it's violent, but not for like no reason, I guess. It's got a pretty interesting story to tell. That, yeah, I agree. Near the end, does get a little like, whoa, I didn't really like maybe necessarily get that out of that. But I would like to watch it a couple more times and see how multiple viewings do it justice at all. I personally watched the sub version. I like Jake, I like subbed. But the dub of Akira is also really good. Both the original 1989 version and the 2001 like redub are both super good. So if you don't want to do sub, you can always check out the dub. The dub's super good. And yeah, if you want to look at what like hand-drawn old school aesthetic anime looks like now, or what it looks like back then compared to now, you should definitely check out Akira. It's super good.
Yep, I completely agree with everything you guys said. I can completely understand why it's considered a classic, and I think that if you like anime and you somehow haven't seen this one yet, then you should definitely go back and watch it. But like we said, just be prepared for some really intense visuals, and make sure you have a proper way to sort of relax yourself after you get done watching it. So if you want to check out the movie and you still haven't, then you can watch it for free on Tubi with ads. It's free with a Hulu subscription, and you can also watch it on Vudu and iTunes for a small rental fee. So Akira, definitely check that one out. So I guess the complete opposite of the visceral in your face movie that was Akira would be the one that I recommended to Connor and Jake, which was Interstella 5555, the story of the secret star system by, I'm going to try and get this right, Leiji Matsumoto and Daft Punk, which was meant to be a film to accompany their second album, Discovery. And it is a wild experience that I'm surprised more people don't know about. So what did you guys think of this movie?
Right off, yeah, I freaking loved this. I had worked a hard day at work, and right after work, I watched this movie. And my first thought is I saw the toy animation right in the beginning, and I was like, okay, this is a big win because they produce and animate the One Piece anime. So I was like, oh shit, toy! Like they're a really big influence in anime. Like they do a lot of work for anime. So when I saw that, I was like, oh, we're in good hands here. But I didn't know what I was going to be getting into when I watched it. When I started watching it, I just started hearing the Daft Punk music, and I was like, oh my gosh, I haven't listened to Daft Punk in years. This is amazing. And I wasn't sure what was going on because it was like playing music. It played a whole song, and then there was like a brief period of like there was like a brief pause in the music, and I was like, oh, are we gonna get some dialogue here? Like what's going on? And then no, it hops right back into the next song, and I was like, oh shit, this entire movie is an AMV. I actually like I could have gone either way. AMV or not. But the whole AMV thing, I was like, this is dope. Like I'm actually very much vibing to this right now. So I loved this. And that old anime aesthetic, that washed like old school aesthetic, hits hard for me. So the fact that it was like that and it was really well done, boom, bingo, A+. That shit was top tier for me.
This was put out like right. I feel like I'm not super versed on the history of it, but this came out in like 2003, so I don't know where we were in terms of like switching over to mostly digital versus pen and paper animation in anime. But it definitely, for all the same reasons you said with Akira, all of the vibrance and all of the really intense visual aspects of it are hyper focused. It really hits you, and combined with the music, is wonderful.
Absolutely.
Connor, what did you think?
I just really like the concept of like a visual album. I really like music. I know that's kind of weird to say, but I like it so much. I like to make it, so like I like to really listen to albums and kind of dissect them, and to have a literal visual album where it's not just forming a story through music, but literally through the visuals in front of me to accompany the music, was really, really cool. And I wish a lot more artists would do it. I know why they don't. It's got to be really hard to do. But it's so cool. I can't believe I've never heard of this. This is so I had such a good time from start to finish, because the first 4 songs, One More Time, Aerodynamic, Digital Love, and Harder, Better, Faster, Stronger. I just love all those songs. So it was like right off the bat, it hits me with like 4 of my like top 4 favorite songs. Just like, dang, this is amazing. And then the rest that I wasn't necessarily, some I'd heard before, but some I don't think I'd ever heard. It was like just a treat to hear these Daft Punk songs and have this really interesting story to go along with it. What's actually insane to me is this was played. I don't know if either of you watched Toonami when you were kids, but this was actually played on Toonami.
I didn't know that, but I can totally see that. Yeah.
It was broken up into like episodic segments. And they played like 4 episodes on Toonami. When I was like researching this, I saw that and I was like, dang, how did I miss this? What was this on? And it was like Toonami Jetstream. And I was like, what the hell is that? Like, what? And it's like, you click on it and it's like, we played like Zatch Bell and these like weird Naruto movies. And I was like, all right, man, don't remember that. So whatever. But it's so like, I don't know. I was just so into it when it starts, you hear One More Time playing, and just the band dynamic right off the bat. Again, like the 4 characters just oozing cool. It's like, whoa, these guys are awesome. I want to see more of them. Was not expecting the twist of the bad guys just coming, and I was like, whoa, what is happening? We're all just having a good time. We're jamming to some music. I do think what is crazy is like the song choice is so good. Like the shifts in tone for the songs and the visuals is so good. It's really funny. Halfway through this almost a music video. Halfway through this movie,
it's just a really long form music video.
Just this like hour and 5-minute music video. I thought I wrote down like cats ? Because there's no dialogue and it's just all music, and I was like, whoa.
I think when you wrote cats ? I wrote anime Smurfs ?
Anime Smurfs.
They do look like anime Smurfs. It's so good.
Especially the drummer.
Dude, their aesthetic is all so good. It's just so good. I want to party there. That's all I'm saying. That place looks like a good time.
That planet, talk about like nightlife, dance aesthetic, neon lights. I wanted to live on that planet. Like, I think that looked amazing.
Yeah, well, when I was rewatching this one, I did it with a couple other friends of mine who hadn't seen it before, and they made the point. They were like, the music is so good and the nightclub looks so good that, spoilers for anyone who hasn't seen it all the way through yet, but the people who were watching the concert in the beginning didn't leave the entire time this band was kidnapped and waited for them to come back.
I wrote down, I said, oh shit, I said, concert people just still waiting for the band to be at the end.
You think like the opening act went out? You think the opening act went out and played like the
for
hour
5 days until the blue band comes back?
Oh my god!
I like to imagine them just them there just staring at the stage and doing nothing that entire time.
Not acknowledging each other, not saying
Just
doing
looking straight
anything,
ahead.
just
Not even saying,
waiting.
"Hey, where's the bands? Where'd they go?" Just like
Oh, shit,
robots
the
that
band's
have
playing
turned
again.
off.
Yeah.
The band didn't finish their set, so their existence stops until the band comes back. That's how it works on planet fucking Daft Punk or whatever it is. Okay, you got to finish the party first.
Oh my god!
But yeah, it's fantastic. I love it. I guess I should have mentioned earlier, but the plot of the movie, it is a companion piece for their second album, but the plot is basically there's this alien band that gets kidnapped and brought to Earth, and they have to figure out a way to get back. And there's the weird subplot with the villain trying to control the universe through music, and it all leads up to a pretty interesting twist that I didn't even really fully understand until I watched it this time, where like I guess we're getting into spoilers, but the very end, like as the movie fades out, we see that it was all a kid playing with his action figures while listening to Daft Punk's music.
That's why the villain plan made no sense at all.
I had a note for wait. This is what's happening when we play records.
Yeah.
But, shit.
It's like, so this guy needs like 5,505 this? Like, what?
That made me laugh
What's
so
going on
hard,
here?
by the way, when I saw his machine that was powered with gold records. I was like, why the fuck is he going after these aliens?
He's
Why isn't he
bougie.
just going to get the gold records?
Exactly.
On Earth?
Bougie. He doesn't care about worldly possessions. He wants to rule the universe with gold
an
discs.
But more than
yeah.
than that though, like you have to think because they show his like backstory and like he's responsible for creating like Jimi Hendrix and Mozart out of like aliens
So
that he's
crazy.
abducted. But if you just do the math and you start from 2003, supposedly when the alien band that we're following wins their gold record. If you're counting backwards, I'm willing to bet that there hasn't been a gold record award for 5,000 consecutive years prior to like.
Dude, oh my god, facts. I've gotta say, I'm fucking proud of myself because when I saw the blue aliens getting turned into normal people and used like for this guy's like whatever his intentions to make money, I wrote down, I was like, so are all artists just aliens like taken by this guy or other people? And I fucking called it. That is exactly what happened. I was so proud of myself. I was like, no fucking way. When it started showing, yeah, like Jimi Hendrix was an alien and shit, I was like, no way. So like there's no talented people on Earth. They're all aliens.
They all suck. They all.
It's all this
bro.
one guy. But it honestly is like it does make sense
his
when
plan could have used some dialogue.
yeah, it could have used like some explaining, but it honestly like it makes a lot of sense in a weird way by the end because it's like I think we all when we're like listening to music we kind of picture like our own visuals in our head, and that same friend who I mentioned earlier made the point of like this is probably a pretty accurate representation of what it's like to imagine like kind of what you said, imagine like what would this music look like if I was just listening to this album straight through. Like it does make sense in a weird way, and I like it a lot, and it very timely too because I was planning on recommending this movie at some point, but I obviously no one could have predicted that Daft Punk were gonna break up in the midst of this pandemic, but it is the world of music has lost two amazing aliens, supposedly, I guess, alien robots.
I thought a thought that came into my head, like just watching this and listening, was, I used to listen to Daft Punk all the time. I just, I must have tired myself out from listening to them like so much. But hearing it again, I watched this movie last night. I truly believe that they are timeless. They were doing some just insanely creative shit. And they are aliens for that, because when did they start? Like, when did they start making music?
The 1997, I think, is when they put their first album out. So like almost 30 years.
That shit still pops now. Like, it's still so good.
Like, Around the World is one of the most, like, from like a conceptual standpoint, Around the World is one of like the simplest songs ever, but like it still is a masterpiece all these years later.
Yeah, 100% agree. This movie was just like so crazy. I loved finding out that the rich, like, capitalist dude who stole them from their planet to what I thought was to just make money and be famous, was actually he's trying to rule the universe or something.
or something.
What's so funny about that is I wrote down, like, when that happened, I was like, oh, what a good metaphor for like the music industry. Like, you take these people and you like take them from their like homes or from their like source of inspiration, and you make them play music that's soulless. And it's like, because the look on their faces when they play, when they're like humanized or whatever you want to call it, is like they look like miserable, and it's like, oh wow, what a like interesting like metaphor for the music industry. This guy sucks, man. He doesn't care about musicians at all. And then it's like 2 pages later, it's just like, never mind, this guy's fucking crazy. Holy shit, what's going on?
I really believe that the music label guy turned out to be the fucking good guy. He like, when he found out that they were aliens, he was like, oh shit, I gotta
we
tell
gotta send them back.
The world has to know.
Somebody call NASA.
These aren't people. They're aliens who are stolen.
It's like the producer's the bad guy.
Really cool. I love just like everyone accepting that. They're like, oh my gosh, they're aliens. They were stolen. We gotta help them get the hell back to their home. Like, everyone on Earth was just. Yeah,
arguably the only movie where we discover aliens and that happens, where the whole world is like, oh yeah, we got to help these guys out.
We're not just massive dicks to
Yeah, like, these guys trying to dissect them and shit like that. Like,
these guys wrote One More Time. We have to help them out, okay?
They were so virtuous with their music that they were just like, no, like, let's not study their technology. None of that. They made this great song. We got to help them. Like, we got to get them back home.
Oh, man.
The military general's like, I don't care. Send them back. They need our help. That song is a jam.
We don't need them. Get them out of here. Get them out.
Get them out of here. But yeah, no, I love this movie. I'm glad you guys liked it a lot. Any final thoughts before we move on?
Yeah, I loved that the henchmen of the immortal sorcerer capitalist guy were like, I thought they were taken care of when like the blue guy comes from their home planet to rescue the band. He like manages to snatch them up in his car, and he's like, we're getting out of here, like, or I imagine he's saying that. And the henchmen guys get wrecked by a tractor trailer. And then I see the guy like stumbling towards the camera after, and I'm like, wait, what the fuck? Like, this guy lived through that? Only to see that he is the Terminator. And all of them are the Terminator. Like, his eye literally lights up red on the camera under his shades. I was like, oh fuck, Terminators! Loved that, and I also loved at the end when the capitalist guy falls into the lava chasing after the golden record. All of his little goons are like, mass suicide, and they all like jump into the lava with him. Yeah. It was so crazy, but truly like such a fucking vibe. The guy who saved them was just like an angel, basically. He saved them even at the end as like the dark capitalist ancient. I don't even. There's so many ways to describe this evil force. Like when he chases their ship through the dimensions and like is about to engulf them. The blue dudes who died saving the bands, like his spirit comes and like takes that thing away. It was, fucking so crazy. This whole movie is so crazy. I loved every bit of it.
One of the I completely forgot to mention, but like one of the like simplest but also like most powerful love stories I think I've seen in a movie in a while.
Oh yeah,
I loved that whole like the tie-in between Digital Love and Something About Us, where we get like a little arc between him and I forget her name, but it's so good. The music is so perfect for it.
The scene I forget. I think it might be Digital Love, but yeah, when he is like dying and he grabs her hand, is that what you're talking about? And he shows her like
they have his little like toy of her that he like kept in his pocket or whatever. It's so sad.
That song hit me so hard right then and there watching all of that. I was like, this song is like truly beautiful and is kind of like touching me in such a way, or I'm getting very emotional. And just the sound, I went to, and I think Connor did too, like, I went to school for sound design and audio engineering, and just, like, appreciating Daft Punk with this visual, like, and how #visceral that song cut into my heart, just, like, with its beauty. I was just, like, because I think the one line the Daft Punk guy sings is, like, man, I might not have it right, but he says, you're like the most important thing to me, or something like that.
I need you more than anything in my life. Yeah.
Yeah. I need you more than anything in my life. It like really, dude, I'm getting like goosebumps actually just thinking about that, and kind of like welling up a little bit because that's beautiful. It really, and I know it might be dumb because of like the type of movie this was or whatever, but it really hit me hard, and I was really feeling it. Beautiful, 100% beautiful.
That's definitely how I would summarize it. It's a beautiful, beautiful movie with some beautiful music to go along with it. It's a little bit harder to find for anyone who hasn't seen it yet, but there is a copy on YouTube right now. I'm not entirely sure that that's the most legal way you can watch it, but if you don't care, you can find it on YouTube. And I think you can rent it on a couple different streaming services, but you'll have to do some research into how you can find it. And maybe some anime-specific streaming websites like Crunchyroll could have it, but I'm not entirely sure. But yeah, Interstella 5555, check it out. And while we're on the topic of emotional and crying, the movie that Connor recommended us watch was 2016's Your Name. So Connor, why don't you tell us about this movie?
This movie is super sad. It's in a really good way. So it is about two. I think they're technically the same age, is how it goes. It's Tetsuo.
Not
Tetsuo.
Taki, I think.
Taki. So many Japanese names, I can't remember. Taki Takebana and Mitsuha Miyamizu. They don't call each other by those last names, so it's Taki and Mitsuha. In their dreams, they end up switching places, and through this like act of switching, they start to learn more about each other's lives and fall not only in love with their lives but each other. They're essentially like parallels to themselves. So Mitsuha lives out like in the sticks, in the boonies, where tradition is still very much the norm. She has to do this like weird rice eating ceremony that is like, it helps make like sake. She travels to a shrine that her family's always been a part of. And she is like, I hate this. I want to live in the city somewhere. And Taki is this like overworked Tokyo city boy who is like always searching for something. It's such a stark contrast to Akira, which is so like violent and dark and brooding, and then we get this movie that's essentially like this cute little love story between two teens. It's a really interesting movie that like highlights one of the most like interesting things about Japanese movie animation right now, where like the scenery and the landscapes that are drawn are jaw dropping.
Yes.
A lot of the naturescapes with the skies and clouds and the colors they use is unbelievable. I still I watched this movie 3 times in preparation for this because I liked it so much. I rented it and I was like, I just have to watch this again and again and again.
I don't know how you had it in you to watch it again and again. And I was like,
I'm thinking the same thing.
Yeah, it the first time it was like, whoa, this is hard. It's tough. It's so like, you know, they switch back and forth. Each one lends like this benefit to each other's lives that change them in positive ways. There's this really, really sad but beautiful scene where Mitsuha, as taking over Taki's body, gets him a date with someone he likes. Her name is Okeda, I believe, Miss Okeda-san.
Something like
is what
that,
he calls her. Yeah, Miss Okeda Senpai. It's Miss, not Mrs. It's very important in Japanese culture. Weeb alert. All right, so Taki, he gets a date with this girl thanks to he gets a date to this girl thanks to Mitsuha, and she, like, in the mirror, knowing that Taki's going on this date, starts crying. And you get this like really cool scene of like a smash cut of Taki going on this date and clearly being disinterested, and Mitsuha crying and admitting to herself, I wanted to go on that date with him. It's like really heart-wrenching.
Yeah. That confused me actually, because I was like, I didn't know, because before I knew what was going on in this movie, like, I thought this was like a really just progressive kind of LGBTQ kind of deal, and I was like, oh, she's in love with Miss whatever her name is.
Oh,
and so I was, what you're telling, you're making it all click much more for me right now. I'm just an idiot, but that makes so much more sense to me right now. Okay, continue. I'm sorry, that just like blew my mind.
So it's actually really cool rewatching it, seeing the similarities and stuff like that. But so you know, goes on this date. She admits to herself, you know, oh, I think I really do love him, or at least I'm interested in him romantically. And he kind of realizes it on this date, so much so that even his date's like, you used to have a crush on me.
There's someone else, isn't there? Yeah,
there's someone else, isn't there? It's pretty obvious, and he is kind of forced to admit it to himself. And he even tries to call Mitsuha, can't really connect to her. And there's a really interesting scene with Mitsuha. I did not get this. I guess it literally is just right on the nose where she cuts her hair because she feels like she's been dumped or something. But she cuts all her hair off, and they go to a festival together with her friends. And at the same time, Taki and her like look at a comet together, basically, super far apart. And right then and there's like a bell sound or a chime or something, and they stop switching bodies when they sleep. Before it was like they would go to sleep and then
wake
the
up as the next person.
Yeah, and then they would take over each other's lives. And right when Taki tries to call her, he can't connect to her, and they stop switching bodies. And
that really threw me for a loop when because that happens like a half hour or so in, and that's like usually not something that happens. Like the body switching thing is like usually it goes all the way up until the end. Whenever you see a movie like Freaky Friday or like any other like dramatic comedy where body switching is an element, it's usually like throughout the entire movie.
Yeah. And it's then it's the problem, and you solve it, and then that's it.
Exactly. But like here, it's like 40 minutes in, and then he's like, and then we never switched again. And I was like, oh, okay, well, where are we going? And I had no way of guessing where it was going.
Because I didn't the first time I watched. I was like,
exactly. I thought I knew where the movie was going. I thought I knew what it was all about until that happened. I was like, oh, wait. Okay, like,
but I was so happy that happened. Like, I was like audibly like yelling, "What?" Like when I won't spoil it yet, but when that information gets revealed to Taki when they're in the diner or whatever, like my heart just sank. I was so upset, but it was in the best. But that's the reason why I don't regularly watch anime is because my heart can only take so much of that.
So they never switch again. It's super sad. It is like this is like the movie starts pulling on your like heartstrings, like you said, 30-40 minutes into the movie it's already like, wow, this is very sad. So much so that like Taki gets obsessed over this. He starts drawing down
the one other thing, I'm sorry to like cut you off, but the one other thing we should mention, because I didn't really pick up on it, is that and there's a line I think Mitsuha says, but they're not really aware of everything that happened after the switch. She equates it to like dream logic, where you don't really remember every vivid detail about your dreams. You're just kind of sort of aware of them and you forget over time.
Yeah, that is important to the movie, is like they keep like a diary for each other is how they put it, to like recollect the events of the previous day, to make sure that, you know, they don't just miss a day of their life and they're like, what happened? It's done actually pretty interestingly, and like I guess in a real way, where it's like if two people were to switch bodies, this is how they would act. They lay down ground rules where like,
and that was one thing I was really happy they did. Yeah, exactly. I was really glad they did that because with the but with that though, because I was worried that was going to become like a running gag, and I don't really like that in movies where this trope is kind of featured. But the way that they kept reincorporating it was so funny and so like weirdly like touching. Like, again, I won't spoil it, but when there's a scene later on in the movie where they switch again and you see Taki's reaction to being back in her body, and it's so sad but hilarious and ridiculous at the same time.
I know. I laughed my ass off at that part, actually.
But yeah, sorry, I keep interrupting you, Cotter. I'm sorry, keep going.
No, it's okay. These are important points to make. They will become important later, I promise. So yeah, they don't switch again. Taki is so like heartbroken by it that he starts drawing all the scenery he can remember, tries to study as much as he can, gets a basic idea of where he thinks he should go, and takes a trip to find Mitsuha. He's determined. He wants to try and find her. He gets to like quote unquote stowaways. It's one of his friends you're introduced to super early on. I don't know his name, so I'm going to call him Glasses. Because he wears glasses, and Miss Okada-san comes with them, and I like the scene where he's like trying to explain it, and it is very real, where it's like he can't really just outright say what it is, so he starts off leading with them that it's like, it's an online friend, it's someone I met online. And it's like, I thought that was a pretty interesting attention to detail, where you can't just be like, I'm switching bodies. Leader's gonna be cool, dudes. You want to it's like, no, I don't.
You got some brews, dude? Yeah. Like, we go find this chick I like, you know? Like, dude.
Trick, you know, man. This shit.
I totally touched your boobs, man. It was insane.
It was cool, bro. So the three of them go looking like across Japan, trying to find this girl, and you can tell almost immediately it's like a montage of like just L's left and right of like, no, we can't find her. No one's recognizing any of this, and it does culminate to a scene at like a diner where. I mean, like during this montage, I think Taki does kind of reveal a little more of like, no, it's not necessarily an online friend. I can't really contact her. Like, he is kind of forced to reveal a little more.
But he never outright says all of it.
Yeah, he never outright admits to body switching, which makes this like next scene all the more, I think, like insane, because everyone looks at him like he's insane. They go to a diner, and luckily someone there, the waitress, or it's like a husband and wife combo that seems to run said diner.
Yeah.
She recognizes his drawing of what I think we as the viewer already knew. I didn't remember at the time. So when she said it, I was like, okay, this is clearly a name I should have remembered. It's called Itomori. The town of Itomori is what he's looking for. She's like, oh, that's Itomori, isn't it? Just like casually, of course, just casually.
Yeah.
So she explains, yeah, that's Itomori. It's a really good drawing. He asks, hey, can I, where is it? Can I go? And she looks at him like he's insane. And you can actually catch like his two friends, same deal, kind of look at him like he's insane. And that's when you learn this, like, this movie has just this massive twist to it where you find out Itomori 3 years ago was demolished in the same exact like meteor shower that the two Mitsuha and Taki had watched together. Even like you can see in the previous scene, when the two of them were watching it, there was like a piece that ended up like breaking off and was red. And that was the piece that ended up just literally plowing directly into Itomori. And you find out that, yeah, he'd been switching bodies with essentially a dead girl. Which was super I was not expecting this twist at all. I think you guys have mentioned before, yeah, my heart just like sunk when you get that overlooking scene of the second crater of where the town used to stand. And he's just there. He takes out his phone. He's like, but I have the notes, right? And he brings the notes up and they all just start like vanishing and getting deleted. It's like,
they're like, don't you understand? This is where Akira was.
Yeah.
Oh, shit.
Went off. This is where Tetsuo went and created a new universe.
This is a couple hundred years into the future.
Everyone knows
returns
that,
to nature.
like, it's common knowledge. Yeah.
Yeah, it was a really, really crazy twist. Super sad scene. I was not expecting it. And then in like a move of desperation, I guess it is, Taki thinks to himself, maybe I should go. So what's established earlier on in the movie is that like rice wine that Mitsuha makes, like as part of their tradition, they deliver it to a shrine. Taki thinks to himself, maybe I should go to the shrine and drink the sake and hope for like a redo, so to speak. This logic I did not follow. I still don't follow it. I'm like, I don't know. It's some Japanese thing.
The grandma
probably
explains that like it's like you leave a part of yourself behind by participating in that like ceremony.
Yeah, like or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There was one thing that I aspect to it too, because I don't want to spoil a bunch of the like stuff that happens later on just yet, but this movie is full of moments where you feel hopeless, like, oh my god, that's so sad, I'm so upset by this, and then you get that glimmer of hope, like, oh well, maybe if he drinks that, then he can go back and change it, and then there's the whole second half of this movie is like a series of like this like overarching feeling of hopelessness, but it's like there's a sliver of chance that maybe we can stop this from happening, and like you're just grasping onto that the entire time, desperately. It's so good.
Some of the slivers really pull on your heartstrings.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah, it is.
I think I was screaming "fuck." At like so many of those times where I was like, no, fuck, there has to be a fucking way, please. Like I was like begging God like to help me watch this movie.
I don't know about you guys, but like the scene, I won't spoil it, but there's a bit where they do finally meet, and they're like, we don't remember each other, but maybe if we write each other's names on our hands, then we'll be able to we'll be able to remember. And he writes on her hand, but she disappears before she can do it to him. And then later she sees what he wrote, and I like audibly was like, I like you, Jake. I was like, fuck, and like that's like when the tears were building up. But that's like when everything just came pouring out. I was bawling when she like looks at her hand and sees what he wrote. It's so goddamn good.
So good.
Yeah, it is.
But I guess we can get into like more spoilers now. So if you haven't if you haven't seen Your Name by now, go and watch it. Definitely all the same reasons I said for Akira, be prepared to have some form of way to relieve your stress and pent up just emotions that you're definitely going to feel. Definitely go watch this movie. Don't, even though we've kind of spoiled it a little bit, definitely you should experience this movie as pure form as you can. So yeah, Connor, continue.
Taki, desperate to try to fix this or figure something out, he travels to that shrine where Mitsuha left her little like sake rice wine, and he tries to drink it in an attempt to hope for like a do-over, a chance to save her. He does drink it, and you get some context to, I think, a scene that we see like super early on, where Taki and Mitsuha see each other in the train, and she's like getting kind of shuffled out, and he yells to her, "What's your name?" And she like takes off her hairband and throws it to him and says, "My name's Mitsuha." And it's revealed now in this current moment that it was actually her traveling to see him. The body switching hadn't happened yet in Taki's
For his
timeline or life.
It's like 3 years apart or something.
Yeah. So that is also a super sad scene. I teared up at that scene when she's like, "Wait, why doesn't he recognize me?" It's a little bit of like a tearjerker where she is expecting this like grand, like
we finally meet in person.
Yeah,
here we are.
Here's this guy. He's like, "Who are you?" He even says to himself, "What a weird woman." So that was like something that was super sad. It really, really did tug on my heartstrings there. But somehow it did work. Taki ends up in Mitsuha's body. After this little context we get, Taki wakes up in Mitsuha's body. That's where we get the funny scene where, again, he realizes it, fondling the boobs and crying. And at this point, is used to seeing his sister like fondle herself. She's like, "Yeah, whatever, this is good." But now she sees her older sister fondling her boobs and crying, and is like crawling towards her and is like, "Come here." She's like, "Yeah, I gotta get out of here, bro.
This is too much."
I love before he he's crying because he's like, "Oh, she's still alive. Like, I'm in her body." And he like looks at the boobs and he's like, "I probably shouldn't for her sake." And then the door opens to him crying, fondling her boobs. So good.
We get that cool little scene. She goes downstairs, and the grandma who like gave us a little bit of this exposition earlier, but didn't necessarily like expand upon it, kind of reveals to us that this whole body switching thing is something that is just passed down in her family, and it happened to her grandmother, it happened to her mother, now it's happening to Mitsuha. There was a scene when Taki was in Mitsuha's body and he goes to the shrine for the first time. The grandma looks at Taki in Mitsuha's body and says, "You're dreaming right now, aren't you?" And that's in reference to the fact that the grandma had recognized that Mitsuha was currently switched with Taki.
Right.
Which is a really interesting plot point that I was also like, I was not expecting that. Okay. So this is another whole interesting thing. Very, again, in real fashion and grounded, Mitsuha, or Taki, I guess. This is going to be hard. I'm gonna say Taki. I'm going to say Taki for this section. Taki says, we have to evacuate everyone. The town is going to be destroyed tonight. And the grandma, in, again, very real fashion, says, "Good luck getting everyone to believe that." It's true. What, like your kid all of a sudden says, "Hey, we got to leave. The comet's going to destroy the town right now." It's never going to happen. Never going to happen. You're never going to get them all to leave like that. He devises this like really interesting plan to try and get both Mitsuha's friends. It's Tessie and Sayaka. One of them is like a constructions expert, and he can get access to some explosives, and one of them is in the broadcasting club. So two very different set of skills. One of them is going to blow up like the town I think it's like a transmitter
power
or some
station,
type,
yeah.
power grid.
Which actually,
and,
really quick, by the way, one thing that somebody pointed out to me who had seen the movie before, because I watched this with the same set of friends who I watched Interstella with, but one of them had seen this one beforehand, and he pointed out that, I don't know if this is true or not, but he thinks that the older guy who leads Taki to like the ruins of Itamori originally, I think that's supposed to be Tessie's dad.
Oh, shit!
But
dang.
I don't know that for sure or not. That could just be
That would
a
be
fan
really
theory.
good point. Yeah. I did not catch on to that, but that would be a really good. I'm just gonna roll with that and say yes. That would be cool. So we're gonna go with that. So their plan is they're gonna blow up the town's energy supply, and then when it shuts off, I believe it's Tessie is the girl. I'm not sure.
No, wait,
Tessie
Tessie or Techi is the guy.
Is the guy. Okay.
Yeah.
And Sayaka is the broadcast girl. She's going to take over like the town's emergency broadcast system and try to get everyone to head to the school. So the high school at the top of the hill is the only place that's like safe from the blast zone. So their plan is to create like a false emergency event and try to get everyone to evacuate. It's like they try to do it. There's like a weird scene where Taki goes to Mitsuha's dad's office, I believe is what it is.
Because he's like running for mayor or something.
Yeah, and he tries to get him to like go along with it at first. He's like, hey, let's try to get everyone to evacuate. Same response, you're crazy. I don't know what you're talking about. He starts to treat who he believes at this time is Mitsuha a little disrespectfully, I would argue. He's kind of a dick, for sure. Yeah. And Taki snaps at him.
Facts, yeah.
Yeah, Taki snaps at him, is about to call him son of a bitch, and he grabs him by the necktie, pulls him towards him, and you have this moment where even the dad recognizes, like, you're not my daughter. Who are you? Which is another really interesting scene where everyone just seems to be glossing over body switching. Like it's just normal. A lot of body switching going on.
Yeah, it seems like the dad is like, because he came, he was married to, his wife who is the mother of her. Like he had to deal with all that spiritual like shit that the grandma was spouting. But yeah, so like the grandma mentioned that, oh, your mother, this happened to her, and it's like something that's part of like our family. So he is used to like the spiritual aspect of it. He too, of course, lives in the sticks with them. So it's not that he's like so modern yet that he wouldn't be convinced elsewise. Basically, he's like, oh shit, like is this what was happening to my wife? Like is this what she was telling me about?
Yeah. It's an interesting scene for sure. But ultimately, he doesn't really want to help her in any way, shape, or I guess Taki in this case in any way, shape, or form. So he kind of like he's dejected. He's walking back. He runs into, I think there's a really, again, driving home the point. It's like no one's gonna believe you. There's like two kids walking to the festival, which we as the viewers now know. Yeah, if they go, they're just gonna die. So Taki tries to stop them. Hey, please don't go. You really shouldn't go. Get out of town and leave. They call him crazy, get away from me, run away. Same deal with his, technically Mitsuha's little sister, urging her to take the grandma, get away. You'll die if you stay here tonight. No one really wants to listen to her.
By the way, I love her so much. The little sister is like
she was
MVP.
Yeah, MVP.
She's so good.
Character is such a great character.
I like that she's like the alarm clock of Mitsuha, by the way.
Yeah.
Just like,
hurry
get up, breakfast. Like
Mitsuha's
every
crazy
morning.
again. Like every few days. Yeah.
So Taki in Mitsuha's body and Mitsuha in Taki's body. So if we go like all the way back, Taki drank I don't know what it's called. It's some
the
Japanese
sake
word.
or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like a sake, some word with a K. So it's like some rice alcohol wine. So Mitsuha wakes up in his body in that shrine. It's like a family old tradition shrine. It seems to be like at the top of a mountain in a crater. It's really
He's in
really
the netherworld at this point.
technically
Points out
the
the grandma.
underworld. Yeah, it's like
Yeah.
you like step past this river and you enter into quote unquote the underworld.
Which, by the way, I really love, like, when the grandma tells them, like, stepping past, like, now we're entering into the netherworld, and the little sister's like, netherworld, like, she just, like, runs into the netherworld, like, yeah!
Yeah, that's what.
Fearless.
It's no, not a care in the world. So yeah, Mitsuo wakes up in Taki's body at the shrine, actually like inside the shrine. That's where he drank the alcohol.
Yeah.
And Taki in Mitsuo's body, thinking to himself, maybe I should go to the shrine right now. Jacks Tessie's bike and makes his way towards the shrine. Eventually, yeah, they both of them make their way to what is essentially the outer ring. Remember, it's like in a crater.
Yeah.
They're on this outer ring of the crater. They sense, I guess, kind of each other's presence. They realize each other's there, but they can't see each other until the hour of twilight. It has like it's like Kataware Doki is how it's referred to in the movie. I don't know if that has any significance at all.
It actually does, because it's funny you say that, because literally I'm looking at the wiki right now, and down at the bottom there's a notes section, and it says Katawari Doki is a Japanese phrase meaning twilight, and Kawatare translates to who is he / she. So it is super deep, yeah.
Holy shit, that's amazing.
It's cool language. I really want to learn it. Really hard though. Okay, so Twilight Hour falls, and it's this. Just again, this is So like tears were welling definitely multiple times in this movie. This is when I cried. I cried really really hard when Twilight Hour falls. They switch back to each other's respective bodies, and they finally get to meet each other. Technically, they met before, but
like proper,
Taki,
with both of them understanding what has been happening.
Taki didn't have any knowledge of their time together, and now it's a proper meet, and it's such a beautiful scene. He returns. He had been wearing the headband that she gave him for 3 years. I think it's 2 years, 3 years. Hands it back to her. And, I promised to give this back. And, they plan to write their name on each other's hands. So when they switch back, presumably after Twilight Hour, when they switch back, they won't forget each other's names. And Taki goes first and writes something on Mitsuo's hand. And this, oh my God, the tears really flew here when she gets one line into her name. And then Twilight
disappears,
Hour marker drops.
Yeah, that hurt.
He's like, Taki kind of realizes what's happening, and is like, no, I won't forget, and tries to write her name, and goes to write even the next stroke of the character, and he can't even remember that.
That hurt me. I definitely was screaming "fuck" at that point. It's like, help me, God, help me.
That's the words. He's like, what's her name? It seems like someone dear, like a name I shouldn't
Not even
forget.
that too, but like he's yelling, or no, one of that. It's one of the two, but one of them he's like Mitsuo, like chanting to try and remember, and then he goes to write it, and he literally seconds ago he was saying it, and he can't. It's already gone.
It's so sad, crazy sad, and it's what's really interesting too is she tries. So I don't know. So that scene really got me. I was really upset about that. You get the switch back so now we're switching back to Mitsuha again in the situation where it's like, I have to stop this comet or I'm gonna die. All my friends are gonna die. And now she's in her body again. Now I can call her a real name, Mitsuha, not Taki anymore. Don't need to screw up on that anymore. So she tries to get her dad one more time. She's like, I think I have to try this one more time.
Daft Punk.
Yeah.
Sorry.
All right.
These movies
Listen,
are
Dad,
all
Dad,
connected.
Have you heard of it, the Interstella band? Listen, this song is why we need to get out of here because this.
Yeah, one more time.
She's like, I'm gonna try this, and then before I say the next thing, I'm actually going to play this song, and it's going to finish
get myself pumped up. Yeah.
One more time.
So yeah, their little like broadcast plan doesn't work. They get found out. No one wants to evacuate anymore. So realizing this, Mitsuha like makes a mad dash for her dad's office to try one more time to try and convince him like, hey, we have to do this. And in the way she like trips, falls. It's a pretty brutal fall. I was like, whoa, that looks painful as hell. She falls, and it's this like moment of no hope again, like no hope. What's she gonna do? She has no time. The comet's gonna hit any minute now. Who knows how far away she is from her dad's like office? She seems pretty beaten up and dejected, and she like realizes that her memories and like even Taki's name is fading from her memory. She doesn't really remember who he is or her time spent with him, and she remembers, oh, he wrote his name on my hand, so I'll go and look. And this is another moment where I cried like a baby.
This is when I was holding the tears in up until
reveals
this point.
His hand, and immediately tears like well up in her eyes, starts falling, and I think she says the line, "You're an idiot. Like, I can't remember your name with this, you idiot." And what he wrote on her hand wasn't his name, but "I love you." He wrote the words "I love you." And,
yeah.
oh my heart, my heart.
There's like a part of like you know and they know. It's like this keeps happening where I can't like remember you, and you almost feel like in that moment he was like, what does it matter? I just I have to tell you like this now because it's so true. I like need to put it on you. I need to say I love you, even if our paths never cross. Yeah, well, like if we forget, it's like I said it to you, and that's the most important thing. And it hurts me so bad. Ugh.
It's extra sad because the line Taki says right after she vanishes, he's like, "I wanted to tell you that wherever you are in the world, I'll come and find you." And it's realizing what he wrote on her hand, "I love you," is like, yeah, he needs her to know because he doesn't need her name. No matter what, he will find her. Technically he found her across the span of 3 years or something like that. So it's like, yeah, I believe him, so it's like Mitsuha with seeing this, she gets like this newfound strength, gets up and is like, I'm gonna make it to my dad's office, makes it to the mayor's office, pitches, you have to get people out of here. You have to. He again is, kind of like, what is going on here? She gives him this like stare down. You see the resolve in her eyes. And it kind of like just you get like a switch back. It switches back to Taki's body, and you're not really sure about what happened. It kind of leaves it up in the air for you. Taki wakes up and slowly he just doesn't really remember anything. He like loses his memories of everything over time, and then we get like a time skip, if you want to call it that, or like a time jump, and we're hanging out with like Taki and his two friends. They're talking about looking for jobs. They're clearly more grown up now.
Yeah.
And they talk about looking for jobs, graduating from university. And this is where Taki, starts to mention, it's actually a callback to the very beginning when we actually see Taki as a grown-up before we get him in his high school years and stuff like that. And he says that, he's always had this feeling that he lost something important and he can't figure out what it is. And it's like really, really sad. I
can't even like I can't even express in words how it's just coming out as exasperated sighs at this point. Like,
same,
it's just
same. It feels like it's so deep and it's so epic. It's like this is like mainlining the truth, as Matthew McConaughey would say in True Detective. Like it's just this is like the most true thing that it reaches beyond the stars and into the depths of my soul. It's like just Mitsuha and Taki they need to be together. They don't even know what's going on. It hurts so bad. This is just the most romantic story
with them on the stairs at the end. Like,
oh my god,
like in most romantic comedies, you get that like, oh, I gotta run before she gets on the plane, and I gotta tell her I love her. Finally, like, there's not that kind of tension, but like, the simple action of them, of like him walking up the steps and her walking down, and they're not sure if they recognize each other, but like something's up. You're just like, just turn around, talk to her. Like, it's
I was
so
screaming,
tense.
yes, right then and there. I was like, please, just fucking say something. And they like, there was that moment where they kind of look, and then they just keep going on their way, and that's when I start screaming, and then they do stop, and that scene where they acknowledge each other, literally the title of the movie is said, like, what is your name? They're like crying because they think they know each other. I started bawling. I was just like, oh, thank God. Thank God. Actually, like, a scene that really made me like have a sigh of relief, but still it's like you're not sure if Mitsuha is fine, is like the aftermath of the whole scenario, like you said, Connor, where like they're grown up, Taki's looking for jobs. You see her two friends, Mitsuha's two friends, and I'm like, yes, they're alive. They're fucking alive. Yes. And it's like, I don't know where everyone else is, but like I see that they're alive, so that means something changed. And then when you see Mitsuha with like longer hair, I just was like, man, this was a roller coaster, and it has gripped me so hard. This is epic. This movie was epic. It's as epic as it can get. There's no like battle scene or anything like that makes it that, but it's just like,
there's so much tension.
It's so epic.
It's so exhilarating. Like,
yeah.
It's what I imagine. Like, every rom-com is like aspiring to that moment of like, please let them get together. But like, there's just something about like you said, like it's just something about like, this is so much more epic and like grand scale than than any other movie I could compare it to. It's and like I honestly, like, I've given it a lot of thought in like the week that I've seen it, but like, this honestly is like my favorite movie that I've been recommended so far on this podcast.
Wow.
I love it so much.
Connor, like, you recommending this movie, like, I was like there was a part of me that was like, yeah, I don't know, like, you know, of course I'm gonna watch it, but I was like, I'm not like, you know, there's nothing enticing me about it, because all I knew was like the basics of it. I was like, yeah, a boy and a girl switch bodies or whatever, and I'm like, yeah, Freaky Friday, whatever. And then, yeah, I've watched it, and it has really affected me, like truly. Like, I love this movie so much. It's made me very upset that I know my life will never have something as grand as something like this. In it, it hurts me because I want what they have. I want what they have so bad. I'm like, you know, life sucks, and this movie has really pointed that out. Just an amazing fucking experience.
Two other things. I think we're at the point now where like, I definitely don't have much more to say other than just more exasperated. That's so good. But like, there two other things that I wanted to say before I guess we end this discussion. But for one, that staircase at the end of the movie that they meet each other again on. That's apparently a real staircase in Tokyo. So people have been like going to that place for like photo ops and like referencing the movie. And that's just, it's so, like, it's the rom-com version of like the Rocky steps, or literally, or like the non-mean version of the Joker steps in New York. It's like, it's another famous staircase to add to the history of cinema. But the other thing that, we kind of touched on this when Brennan was on, and we were talking about that movie Parasite. I don't know if you guys have seen that one.
No, I have to watch that.
It's really, really, really good. But they're talking of doing like an American adaptation of it. I found out when I was reading up a little bit more about this movie. Well, for one, there's apparently a manga that this is based on, or some type of novel to go along with it. So I don't know how faithfully the movie follows the book or if there's any key differences, but apparently since 2017, J.J. Abrams has been in talks to produce a American remake, like live action remake of the movie, which I don't know that I'm a fan of.
I'm not.
Wait. So you were talking about the movie Parasite that's like, from what I understand of the trailer, is like an Asian family, like they like need to get by or something like that. They have to do it.
My point in referencing that was that I'm not really generally a fan of whenever Americans try and remake like an Asian story.
Same. Old Boy is a great example.
Old Boy again,
in my eyes.
You can go back and watch the first episode Brennan was on if you want to hear all our thoughts on that.
Oh, okay.
But
Cool.
It is, Old Boy. That's like the most egregious example that I can think of. But J.J. Abrams is supposedly producing an American remake of Your Name, live action. Yeah, he's producing it.
Oh fuck!
The same guy who directed the Amazing Spider-Man movies with Andrew Garfield is supposedly signed on as a director, and instead of being about high school kids, it's about a young Native American woman and a dude who lives in like urban Chicago.
Okay, I see what they're doing there, because they're like that kind of.
We have to keep the spiritual element in some way.
Exactly. Yeah, let's get the Native American thing going on there. Yeah, with that spiritual side. That's interesting. Oh, goddamn. I don't like J.J. Abrams. So, like, I'll watch his movies. There's no doubt about it. Like, I'll watch the Cloverfields. I actually kind of like Cloverfield.
Yeah. I'm not dissing him at all. I just am not a fan in general whenever like we try and adapt something that's already so perfect. It's like the director.
I mean,
Death Note.
that was bad. That was bad.
Jesus Christ.
Willem Dafoe is the only good thing about that version of Death Note.
Yeah.
Literally the only good part of that movie. It's just like, wow, you got one thing right. That's crazy.
The guy who directed Parasite, I'm paraphrasing the exact quote, but he said something like, your ability to enjoy all the art over the entire world is infinitely expanded the moment you realize that you can get over the 1-inch barrier of subtitles. Like, you don't need you don't need you don't need to have like we don't need a dumbed down American version of something that is honestly a modern masterpiece to appreciate it. Like, everyone should go out and watch this movie, whether you like anime or not. This is one of the best movies I've ever seen. I cannot stress enough how much I loved this fucking movie. Like, go see it.
I 100% agree. I there's just a few things I wanted to say just to like wrap up my final thoughts on Your Name. So the animation's of course amazing, but like it's a mix of like that it's like drawn on an app kind of deal. Like it's like it uses software, as far as I know, to make the scenery, which sometimes I actually have a problem with. But Your Name was done so well. Like I saw where, they use CGI a little bit, like in particular the ritual dance when they're like making that rice sake. But it was like the best version of that software I had ever seen. I thought it was so good.
Every time they show the comet,
just me noticing it. Oh my god, yes, the comet was so good. But I like seeing that Japanese like countryside in that way that they portrayed it. I was just like, I really want to go and like live there. I want to go to Japan so bad. The scene where Teshi and Mitsuha and their other friend are like, you guys, what should we do? You want to go to a cafe? And like they're all like, cafe, and they end up on a bench next to like a little soda machine dispenser that dispenses like canned coffee or whatever. That scene, I like legit was so envious of what was going on there. I was like, look at these three friends out in the countryside on a bench at like that magic hour, just like chit-chatting in the summer breeze, just like like drinking a can of coffee with each other. That was just heartwarming to me. I loved that so much.
If
just
I could
like the
make
little things.
any complaint about the movie at all, is that I don't understand why Mitsuha wants to leave that town so badly, because it's fucking gorgeous.
Same, yeah. Yeah,
Like...
it is like one of those things, you know, you live in the woods, you want to see the city, you live in the city, you want to see the woods deal. Man, just the scenery really captivated me. And this was just like the best presentation of this like software, you know, that does drawings like this like I had ever seen. This movie is fucking amazing, like just from top to bottom, just so good.
Yes, I couldn't agree more. Connor, anything that you want to say in closing about Your Name?
I'm glad I could make you both miserable wrecks of the movie, it made me miserable too, if that makes you feel any better. It is very sad.
Okay,
it was miserable in the best possible way. Like I needed, like literally as soon as it was over, I needed to like talk, I needed to like speak with someone else who had seen the movie. I needed to like get all my emotions out to like somebody who would understand it. And that's like the most ideal thing you want in a movie, I think, is like that.
It was like
shareability.
It was cathartic, but it led to more pent up like emotions. Like I was like, I've been relieved in one sense, but now I'm yearning for a deeper
I want to swap bodies with a teenage girl and feel
I've been asking teenage girls all over town. I'm like, yo, you trying to swap bodies?
I do want to say, if you watch Your Name and you like Your Name, you should watch 2 other movies by the same director. It's Makoto Shinkai.
I've heard he's movie. I've heard everything he makes is excellent. I'm not familiar with his work, but yeah,
really good. 3 years before Your Name, he did a movie called The Garden of Words. Also another romance story, just beautifully animated. He's really good narratively. The stories he read are really good. And then there's one a little more recently, 3 years after Your Name, in 2019, he did a movie called Weathering with You. I think I mentioned it to you briefly.
Yeah, this is the one I've heard about. Yeah.
It's it's another like love story, and this one is supposed to be just as good, if not better, than Your Name. It's like
that's
animated.
Oh wow,
a tall order to fill.
Yeah, animated better. The narrative is also just there's like some supernatural aspects to it as well, but it's still grounded. I keep using this phrase, but it's still grounded in reality super well.
Hashtag visceral, hashtag grounded. All of that.
Hashtag grounded in the visceral. It's just super, super cute. And
apparently 5 centimeters per second is another one he did. That's like pretty hashtag visceral. But it's also, it's not like happy. Like what we saw was sad happy. I think that one's just sad. But someone recommended me that movie last night, not even knowing that it was the same director that made Your Name. I brought up Your Name and they're like, oh, have you ever heard of 5 millimeters per second? And I was like, no. And I looked it up. I'm like, did you know that that's the same director? And they're like, no. I was like, holy shit. Like, he's just good. He's just really good.
Your Name.
So yeah,
amazing.
You get super upset like we all did and cry a lot. You should watch those other 2, The Garden of Words, Weathering with You, and 5 centimeters per second, because they'll probably also all make you cry a lot too. So cry some more. Not gonna hurt you.
See what we're gushing about. So if you have if you want to go out and watch Your Name, you can find it for. I don't think it's free on, and I could have sworn I heard someone say it was on Netflix, but I didn't check that. I ended up.
I said that. I was wrong. My bad.
Oh, okay.
It's not free in like North America Netflix. If you have like a VPN, you can sign up for. I think it's free on Japanese Netflix and maybe English Netflix. I'm not sure. Definitely not free streaming. You do have to pay for it. I think it's on like Amazon.
Yeah, we got it. According to Google, it's on Vudu, Amazon Prime, YouTube Movies, Google Play, and Apple TV, all for less than $5. But honestly, like, I'm gonna steal a page from Rob's book. Just buy it. You're not gonna regret it. Just buy the movie. Yeah.
Super worth it.
worth it. It's so good. It's just so good. Do yourself a favor, watch it in the best quality you can because it's amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I guess on that cathartic note, that's the end of this episode of the Watchlist Podcast. Jake, Connor, thank you guys so much for coming on the show. I had a great time talking with you.
Truly, thank you so much. This was awesome. Such a good experience, man. I love you. I think you're such a great host, dude. Thank you for having us.
Thanks, man. I really appreciate it. I'd love to have you guys on again sometime, talk more anime, manga stuff with you. And thank you for watching the Watchlist Podcast. We'll see you next time.